Hello everyone, and welcome back to Victoria 3, the finest simulation of the Victorian era on the market. Now, during this era, Japan, to put it in layman's terms, kinda popped off, and I, as a typical Paradox gamer, looked at that and said, I can do better. But you see, when you're dreaming about your goals, you imagine everything going your way, which did not happen at all this time. You see, I should have learned from my Korea game, which I had to scrap as a video because everything went horribly. Wait, what? Are you kidding me? At least things went better as Japan for a bit, until it didn't, but if you find my suffering enjoyable, remember to leave a like and subscribe because I need this to make the pain worth it. So, we're Japan now, and we've been kinda isolated from the rest of the world for several centuries at this point. So, there is a lot of political clout in this country to keep us from opening up at all. But I need to be able to trade to get powerful, so isolationism has to go. Now, I could do the way you're supposed to do it by promoting other factions who are interested in openness and whittling down to nobility, but I think I'm gonna go over their head to get it done. Isolationists hate him. See how he opened Japan to the world with this one trick. Our markets may be open now, but we got another problem. The shogunate is still in charge, and they're gonna stand on our way to prevent us from advancing our goals. So, we gotta purge them. But we gotta provoke the shogunate a bit, and when the traitors expose themselves, we disarm them. Now, when we provoke the rebellion again, it will be much easier for me to defeat them. Look at this. It's gonna be a cakewalk for the enemy army that's destroying me. Apparently, all the good generals want to fight for the aristocrats, so we're just getting rolled initially. But I have the numbers to just keep fighting, so I wear them down and eventually piece them out. The official modernization of Japan can begin, first with modernizing the army since it's super easy, and against my better judgment, I keep the samurai around. So with that better army, we had to use it against people who are weaker than us. Brunei is an easy target since it has barely any troops, so it makes it a no-brainer to attack. Landing was a bit harder, cause wow, they really messed us up here, but once I landed, it was just a steamroll. There was also Sulu, but they didn't have a chance either. I passed new taxes by telling the people that I needed it to balance the budget and I'd be responsible with the extra money, but you see, I kinda lied because I went into horrific debt to build some gold mines. So I got some extra taxes to make it a bit better, but it did not make it better. You see, 26% interest on loans can cause one hell of a debt spiral. So we got really close to defaulting. And while you could say this is a result of my reckless spending on needless stuff, I'd prefer to say that I'm a victim of Western imperialism with these criminal interest rates. So now everyone has to share or pay their fair share to make sure the nation can recover. Thankfully, France is willing to make up for their transgressions and forgive my debt. I needed to be more open about immigration in the empire, so I passed migration controls, but the farmers were really not happy about that, so I had to suppress them. This triggered an event for me to be able to do more stuff to diminish their power, but it finished nearly instantly, so I just assumed me clicking that event button just caused the factions leader to spontaneously combust. While checking around Europe, I noticed that I could get France's help in a war against Prussia to finally get recognized, so I can finally make some moves in this unfair world. Spain joined the war to fight against us, but when they actually realized they were about to fight France, they came to their senses on how much of a poor decision that would be. So, it is just me and France versus Prussia. Shortly after the war starts, I managed to get a cheeky naval invasion in northern Germany, but once the Prussian army shows up, I have no chance to actually advance. But all I had to do was just park the bus in northern Germany and hold long enough for Prussia's war exhaustion to get my rightful recognition and money to boost the economy. To prove I was worthy of recognition, I was gonna bully the Spanish by taking the Philippines, and a little bit extra from them. But to be safe, I did get the French on my side to ban slavery in Spain, so really I was fighting this war for good. I'm liberating people. Fortunately, had a big problem fighting the Spanish, called they have better stats than me in battles, so I naval invaded them instead, so they can't stop me over there. Once that was done, they couldn't do anything to slow me down, so I got everything I wanted out of this war from Spain and Portugal, driving the Spanish into further instability and another civil war. Later, I thought it was time to assert my dominance further, against the Chinese this time. I really love this feature where the game just gaslights you that another nation can be swayed to join, but the only thing that will work to convince them isn't even valid, so they can't join the war. So I decided to just bravely face down both the Chinese and Russia alone as Japan, believing my superior technology will allow me to persevere. However, in my first invasion of Taiwan, I get completely slapped because the army size is too big. For some reason, this game never thought that maybe a player would want to directly control the size of an army, a general commands, when they put this in, so I have to do it the scuffed way and just create and promote a bunch of other generals I don't need. At least I land this time, and secure the island before any reinforcements can arrive. But I then make a realization, the Qing can't go below 0 war score because I don't occupy Korea, which is a war goal, and that's understandable, but Korea isn't in the war. I don't get how Korea can be a war goal without even being in the war itself, but at least I could land at the Chinese capital and put this long war to an end. So, was it all worth it for an independent Korea and Taiwan? No! I'm so much debt now, and the reparations aren't even going to be enough to pay it all off. Also, the ungrateful Taiwanese just immediately tried to declare independence from me. I want to get what I'm duly deserved, but apparently despite our good relations, France just prefers this newly independent state as a friend to the nation they have literally fought together with several times. At least I'm able to get the UK on my side for this war to help against this betrayal. Despite my superior units, we get absolutely destroyed in the first landing by sheer numbers because quantity is the real quality in this era. But once I bring more men, we can land and start liberating the country, but I only have so long before half the French army arrives since I can't stop them from arriving because of reasons. Fortunately, the French aren't able to push me out before I'm able to puppet Korea, but once that's done, another problem arises. Since France has occupied its war goal against me, it's actually on track to get it from me. I take a large army and land to retake the war goal, but somehow, despite outnumbering the enemy 10 to 1, it will take nearly 2 months for me to actually get a beachhead. And with battles taking this long, I never had a chance. So now France has a treaty port in my market. Things were not looking good in Japan after that loss. We had famines in some of our colonies, and my attempt to get laissez-faire once again failed due to people threatening revolt. I saw poor Siam was getting bullied by the British again, and I felt that I needed to expand some protection to Southeast Asia, but they must have misinterpreted that because they offered me a defensive pact. So the first nation I moved to protect was Vietnam, but that was too much for Russia to allow, so they joined to stop me. And the Russians could just human wave me in battle despite me having superior tech. Personally, I think it's a bit ridiculous that this army with breech-loaded rifles and artillery is losing to Napoleonic-era soldiers, but just throw enough bodies at any problem doesn't matter, I guess. Eventually, I figured out I don't need to be wasting bodies in southern Vietnam since the war goal is Tonkin. I tried to push further and secure the whole north, but the Vietnamese had quite a welcome for me, so I just had to wait them out. But with them gone, my war support was negative because the Russians had the war goal despite them not even holding the state that the treaty port is in. And my desperate invasion of Outer Manchuria does nothing because it's not like supply lines are a thing in this game. So I just have to surrender now, and I have another great power treaty port in my market. After all these difficulties with other nations, I keep inviting suffering by going for Siam. But for a brief moment, things go okay. I actually get the laissez-faire law passed, which I've tried for so long to get, and no great powers intervene in this war against me. But people don't like the idea of growing the economy, so they threaten a revolution against me and want agrarianism back, but I'm not gonna listen to them, so I choose interventionism instead to calm them down. I mean, I'm so close to becoming a great power, I can't let these annoying people slow me down. I managed to increase my military power and economy enough to finally be recognized as a great power, and I immediately noticed my income shoot up because of the treaty ports deactivating. The UK even offers me an alliance, and with that I feel empowered to right the wrongs of the previous wars. And I just find out that they never fixed you being able to take back treaty ports from great powers, so I have to lash out on China instead. Seeing that I'm gonna go against Russia and China, the US of course offers its financial support. Also, just want to show you guys that there was no way for me to get that treaty port back from Korea, because there is literally no option in the add war goal screen for the Russians to give that, so they're just gonna keep it permanently. At least I can get Alaska though. Unsurprisingly, since the Brits didn't see anything to gain for themselves in this war, they just left, so it's just me versus China and Russia again. Upon fighting the Russians, I am horrified to discover that they have actually modernized their army. And it looks like I started a trend because now other people are starting to circle around and descend on China to take their piece. I noticed Russia was also at war with the UK, so at least the Brits could deal with the Russian Navy. Also want to shout out the Korean army. While my army was struggling to defeat the Russians, they had little issue stopping their offensive and later pushing them back. But I guess that might be because they didn't actually fully modernize their military and were still using post-Napoleonic era cannons. But with the Russian fleet dealt with, I could safely land in Alaska and take this honestly kind of worthless land, but it would still be a moral victory over the Russians. I mean, the Russians had a bunch of men, but their resolve wasn't enough, and I pushed them back on all fronts. After my invasion of Outer Manchuria, they knew they couldn't continue this war, so they peaced out and abandoned the Chinese. Without their Russian backers, the Chinese will to fight completely collapsed, so I got everything I wanted in this war. So feeling good after that victory, I thought I might as well start integrating my less important subjects, but Aceh was too much for the French to allow. Okay, fine, at least I can get that treaty port back from them, and nope, that one's unavailable too. Guess I'll just take some Pacific Islands then. But this war goes disastrous for me. The landing in Aceh takes so long that the French can reinforce the area, and I just roll blunders defending Tokyo from a naval invasion, so the French land. Despite me having 3 commanders in the region, the next battle with France has no commander on my side, and once again it goes on way longer than it has any right to. I had no chance to organize any sort of response to these initial wins because I'm forced to peace out of the war, losing some pretty important parts of my empire. Also, notice Aceh didn't even ask for independence, they just wanted to screw me over, so at this point, I'm pretty much done with this nation. I love how in Victoria 3, warfare has just regressed to the classical ages where you fight a few battles and the war is over. I don't get Wiz's obsession with making war exhaustion and war score the same thing when it just makes wars worse for players. He did this in Stellaris and it was a bad system, and now did it in Victoria 3 and it's even worse. Just make it separate things again like it was in Vicky 2, so comebacks are actually possible in wars. Also, please make the battle shorter, please. If I can cook myself breakfast in the time it takes to simulate a battle where one side is greatly outnumbered with similar tech, there's a problem. Anyways, there's a lot I could say about this game, but that can be saved for another day. Hope you guys did enjoy the video though, and if you made it this far, you better hit the like button, and subscribe if you haven't already. I'll see y'all next time with something a bit different.